second RBST podcast on new entrants and native breeds. It's really nice to have you all here, so thank you very much again. We really want to start with knowing your story and your backstory, sort of how and why you got into farming. So if we start, Sam, will we start with you? How did you get into farming, and give us a wee bit about your story?
Yeah, so I'm from Devon originally, so surrounded by kind of farms growing up, and it was always a plan of mine to eventually get into it. We were living in London during kind of the corporate life, and then during lockdown, I suddenly was able to work remotely, and we realised we didn't have to be in London any longer, and so used that opportunity to escape, and we moved up to Staffordshire. That allowed us to kind of keep commuting to London if we needed to, but very much now getting into farming for the very first time and making things up as we go along.
Always the way. Yeah. Baler twine, that's my tip. It fixes everything. Fixes everything, Baler twine. Love it. Perfect. Thank you so much. And then Jenny and Co, how about you guys?
I'll let you speak.
Yeah, so we Northumberland. I'm from both my parents are from farming families, so I've always been involved in farming. Grew up on a farm and everything like that. So wanted the opportunity to take on my own tenancy and have a go ourselves. So me, myself, and Jenny and the two boys went through a bizarre process to get the farm really. But yeah, so we're up in Northumberland. We've got about 340 acres and running Hereford cattle and a few Highlands as well.
So am I right in saying that you were on the Matt Baker TV?
Yeah, we went through the first round of that.
Yeah, so we knew the farm was coming up to go out of tenancy anyway, so we knew that beforehand, and then when it did, it just came with the process of being on TV and Matt Baker filming it. So yeah, that was what we had to do.
It's fantastic, honestly. I mean, I was actually just saying to Sam before everyone joined that my family farm, it was tenanted as well, so we don't farm anymore. My dad sort of reluctantly retired, but considering becoming a black widow just so I can farm again. So we'll see. And Billy, how about yourself?
So we've got a small farm in Devon. So it was my grandfather's farm, but he passed away about 20 years ago, sadly. So the farm hadn't been worked since then, really. And ever since I've been a kid, it's all I've ever wanted to do. Hated school, so pretty much failed everything there. And then when I was 15, 16, my dad brought me my first 2 Berkshire pigs. And then I just sort of established the business from there, really, and just slowly expanded and whatnot. So yeah.
What a fantastic birthday present.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that.
Whereabouts in Devon?
So we are Oakhampton.
Nice.
Yeah. So sort of West Devon, really.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And then Ashley, how about yourself?
So we're based in Sheffield. I'm an inner city boy. Ended up working on farms through, basically I'm very tenacious and don't take no for an answer. So all the farmers that said they didn't want to employ me, I just kept turning up anyway and scraping out the checks. And eventually they had to pay me. And then, I was a farm manager at the current farm I'm on up until 2022. And then in 2022, the option to run it sort of in my own right came up. So we took that. And now me, my wife and our 4 kids, we run this place, plus we run 100 acres for like wildlife trust and stuff like that. So we have done that, and we specialise pedigree Highlands, pedigree Cheviots, Scottish black faces because I like getting hurt, and then we agritourism on the side. So just I've never taken no very well, so that's how I got into farming. Basically, is the easy answer.
Well, it kind of sounds like you've got the temperament of the Scottish blackface, which is not taking no for an answer.
That's it. I really identify with the Scottish people. You know, being redheaded, don't take no for an answer, and have been known to lose my temper once in a while. Very rare, but it happens.
I admit to nothing about my nature. Great. So, I mean, in terms of breeds, then obviously, Ashley, you were just saying that you've got your pedigree side. For everyone else, let's go with Billy to start off with. So do you still have your Berkshires, or what else do you have?
Yeah, so we've got we've got a big selection now because we've just opened up. I've just opened up a small farm shop, farm park. So we've got like a little cafe on site. So we keep a herd of pedigree Berkshire pigs, large black pigs. We've got White Park cattle, and then we've got Herdwick, Castle McMorrit, and Jacob sheep. And then we've got quite a large selection of poultry as well. All rare and native breeds, and then we're looking to add a few more different breeds next year as well. But they're all on display for the public to see. And then we've got like a butchery on site as well, so everything gets processed through there and sold direct to the public.
Oh, amazing!
Which works quite well, yeah.
That is fantastic. And Sam, what about you?
The Highland cows also. We very small herd at the moment. Fold. And then we have some Norfolk One turkeys. But the aim is very much to eventually get some Exmoor ponies and some Tamworth pigs to kind of round out the mix.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. And then Jenny and Co, how about yourselves?
So we've got pedigree Herefords to start with, and then we've got 5 Highlands as well, which will cross with the Hereford. Just rather than having 2 bulls on the place at the minute, we're just wanting the ones, so we'll cross the Hereford onto them, and quite easy carving as well that way as well. And then sheep-wise, we've got predominantly South Country Cheviots with a few Suffolk crosses as well, just for kind of the more commercial market in the lower bits of the farm. We've got 3 large black pigs, and a few bits of pygmy goats. Yeah, they seem to be the characters, the pygmy goats.
Yeah.
And then ducks, chickens, so bit of everything.
I feel like the theme of my background, I've picked the right breed
I
for
would say
today.
you've got the right way there, yeah.
No, that's great. That's really, really good. Yeah, it's a great mixture. I've bred a lot of the breeds that you've all said that you breed, and I mean, every breed has their own personality. And goats wise, I mean, I'm a big fan of the Royal Guernsey goats now. I used to have them before they were the royal title. So love them all. Okay. So if we talk about the challenges starting out as a new entrant, or getting your native breeds, or going into farming from a young age, or sort of slightly older. Billy, how about yourself? Let's start with you with this one. Did you face any challenges? Obviously, you're saying that your grandfather farmed, but what challenges have you faced in farming so far?
When I first started, because I started at quite a young age, so I was 15 when I kicked off. So the issue was, first of all, I couldn't actually own anything. So I had to, my dad had to have everything, and obviously, money as well. So obviously, I was lucky to have the land, but obviously, like I said, I hadn't been sort of farmed for about 20 years. So it required a lot of investment to buy the stock in the first place. So that was definitely the biggest challenge, because obviously, as we all know, nothing in farming is cheap, and it's sort of surviving until you get your return. So obviously we start off with pigs, for example, so it was a good sort of year and a half really of having to work another job to sort of pay for it, to actually get the ball rolling, as it were. So that was sort of the biggest challenge. And then as that sort of started to tick over and work quite nicely, we then got slammed with COVID, which screwed my plans right up. But for the better, in fairness, because it sort of changed everything we do now. So we would have never sort of opened up the farm park without COVID, actually. So it worked quite well, really. But yeah, it was just initial startup costs really was the biggest problem for me.
Yeah. And did you feel that those diversification streams within the business, like the butcher shop, for example, obviously diversification is such a big thing in agriculture now, you really do need it. A lot of businesses depend on it. So is that a huge part of your business that you really need to make a success in order for everything else to align?
Absolutely, yeah. Because obviously the biggest thing for me to get into it was obviously it's just adding value to the product you're producing. So if I went into pigs in a commercial way, obviously it's all numbers. So you need hundreds to make it worthwhile. So my idea was to keep less and try and sell for more. And that was sort of another challenge, was that because we decided to go directly to the public, it's convincing everyone why they should buy it and why they should pay a bit more for it as well. So obviously that's been the biggest problem is until now really, food has been very cheap in the supermarkets. So, and then we're suddenly coming in with pork at sort of like £10 a kilo, and people are thinking, well, why should we pay this? And then you've got to try and convince them as to why they should. So that was the sort of a challenge to start with, which obviously once they did and they liked the product, it all sort of sold itself then. But yeah, it was getting that started.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also in terms of sort of tenancies in general in agriculture, I mean, it's very, and certainly in Scotland, I can't speak for the rest of the UK, but certainly in Scotland, it is quite difficult to get an LDT tenancy anyway. Really, you're working on SLDT sort of, you 3 years, you'd be very lucky if you got 6 years. So it's very hard to come by land regardless. But with the tenancy for you guys, Jenny and Adam, how have you found your tenancy since you got it? Like, is it working? Are there any risks to it?
I think we applied for 2 or 3 different places before we ended up going through the process we did and getting somewhere. And I think getting an opportunity is very difficult in the first place.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest stumbling block, is getting an opportunity before you even get into the stage.
Yeah.
Certainly up here, and like I work in Scotland, so I know exactly what it's like up there as well.
Yeah.
So getting the opportunity is the hard part, I think, initially. But then we've been quite lucky. I mean, we both work full time as well as running the farm.
Yeah.
But because we've gone in with the National Trust, there's been a bit of flexibility from them just till we got ourselves established the first 2 years, which has been a big benefit to us.
Yeah.
And we weren't coming, to be fair, completely new into it, because because I was from farm and stock, I kept a few sheep and a few cattle. So when we got the tenancy, it was about growing them rather than fully starting afresh, to be fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the first year was quite difficult, because obviously we had to, as Billy said, you put as much into it to try and grow your numbers, and then it's like 18 months before you get a return rather than a year, which that extra 6 months is what really takes it out of you, I feel. But then this year, as we're going into the 3rd year now, it does feel like the pressure's been lifted a little bit. We're kind of more established and stuff, and we've got settled with the farm as well. Every year is different. We've had 3 completely different years here so far. And we'll be here 10 years, which is what the tenancy is, but we'll probably still not know the place by the time we'll be here 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. I mean, I think they say on average, I mean, it will take at least 6 years turnover to really get the cogs greased for an agribusiness anyway. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot to overcome. I mean, Sam, what did you think when you moved from London, you got your land? I mean, was it difficult for you, feeling like, as a new entrant, were you widely accepted into the agricultural community, or was that difficult?
Yeah, I think we expected to find a bit of resistance in the local community, kind of being outsiders, and we're it's a rewilding project, so we knew there'd be some tensions there in terms of traditional farming. But the farm that we took over hadn't been kind of profitably used in the 10 years before we moved in. It was a former dairy farm before that. So we could see we had a lot of work to do to kind of get it up to scratch. And it was about kind of presenting our vision and what we wanted to do to the area, to the people that we met around us. And actually, we didn't find any resistance, and all of our expectations were dashed, because we found that the community around us, whilst they weren't able to do as much of an environmentally focused project as we wanted to do, they all really cared about diversity and kind of the animals that we see around us. And actually, quite quickly, we found a local kind of Turnip Valley facilitation group. Was a network that already existed. And so we kind of joined them and was straight away introduced to lots of people that were willing to help us and advise us, and probably say things behind our back in terms of what we're doing to the land. But I think because we are still trying to kind of farm within that, they kind of respect that. And we've just sent our first our first cow off to the butcher. So we it's very emotional. So I'm sure we'll stop carrying it back down the line, but it's we feel like we're getting to the proper farmer status soon.
Yeah. Emotional but tasty.
That's it. It was my my birthday the day we dropped him off, and one of my birthday presents was a beef and potatoes cookbook.
Look, you're all getting fantastic birthday presents. Billy's got pigs, you've got a cookbook. I'm missing out here. I'm missing a trick. And then Ashley, for you, you've obviously said about your tenacity, and you kept turning up at farmers, doorsteps and saying, "I'm here again. I'm going to do this." With your experience, did you, aside from obviously doing that, did you have any mentors or support networks that you could turn to whilst you were trying to really get a job in agriculture?
I mean, yeah, unwittingly, I had a very good mentor that once he just gave in and thought, well, he's turning up anyway, I'll help him. And that was the first chap I ever worked for, which was by and by ended up being on the farm that we're now on. But he was my mentor, and I remember him. I remember the first day I chatted to him. I said, "Look, I want an apprenticeship in agriculture. I know I'm not from farming. I know I'm not traditionally." And he goes, "Well, I can't afford to pay you. I can't afford to take you on." So I went home and I had to think about it, and I turned up at the farm on the weekend. And I said, "Right, well, don't pay me in money, pay me in knowledge. Let me work for nothing, and I will." And I ended up having to go to our local agricultural college on bended knee and ask them to let me do an apprenticeship, because an apprenticeship states that you have to be paid. And I ended up having to sit down with the board from, I think it was EdXL, I can't remember, whichever the awarding body was at the time, to have a discussion to say, I'm happy to work for free to get my apprenticeship. So I did have some good mentors along the way. When I finally got into agricultural college, my agricultural assessors were great. They helped. Obviously, I literally went from no farming experience whatsoever to into an apprenticeship, which was just a few years ago now. And yeah, there was difficulties along the way, but it's just not taking no for an answer has a lot to be said when it comes to trying to make your way in agriculture anyway.
Absolutely. And you make such a good point there, don't pay me in money, pay me in knowledge, because knowledge really is the key in agriculture. I mean, you learn something new every day. It teaches you, I think, such a broad range of skills, not just with livestock, but practical, like solving practical issues that are right in front of you, and you have to think, what do I do here? Because every day really is different. And that's what I really miss about my background with farming. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to slag my dad off on camera, but PPE equipment was not a thing when I grew up.
No.
I've still got all my fingers though, so we're okay.
That's it, yeah.
Sorry, Dad. You won't watch this anyway. It's fine. So in terms of breeds, then we've all got a mixture, but let's focus on why you all chose to go into native breeds, or certainly have some native breeds or cross them with commercial breeds, whatever the setup is. Sam, let's start with you again. So why did you turn to looking at some native breeds instead of looking at commercials?
Yeah, well, I think we were driven by the fact that it was a rewilding project, and so they were going to have to be breeds that could look after themselves kind of much more and be kind of out all year round, and then us have faith that they were kind of graze and forage in the right way, and have that kind of instinct to go through away from the kind of the normal fields and into the woodland and into kind of the scrubland and have an impact everywhere. And we chose kind of horned cattle for that reason, because of the kind of disruption that they'll make in the landscape, which was a tough choice. I had to do a lot of persuading on this side to kind of say it's worth it and it will have an impact. And then the flip side of that is looking ahead, we were talking about it earlier, in terms of that we will sell kind of surplus meat and surplus products out of the rewilding project, and we want to kind of be able to talk about the story behind that, and the rare breeds and the native breeds feed into that, and it's around saying, we and we were talking about dropping the cow off earlier, and I was really emotional, but I knew that cow had a good life. I could point to the only thing he'd ever eaten his entire life, and that kind of background and ethos is really important to kind of elevate in the kind of the marketing side of things. And also, we want people to feel happy that they're a rewarding project in the local landscape, and Highland cows are very photogenic. People are forever stopping and taking selfies. So the footpath goes around their field, and they're a bit of an icon. And so picking those animals to kind of stand out for that reason, really.
Absolutely, yeah. And then, Billy, I'd be interested to hear your point of view in this, because it sounds like you've kind of grown up with native breeds and as a favoured livestock that would be kept by your family.
Yeah, well, no, actually, so my granddad was a commercial dairy farmer.
Okay.
So the native breeds is always, just ever since I've been a kid, as I say, obviously the farm wasn't working when he died when I was 5, so it was sort of empty until then. But it's just always been something that I've just always been a bit nerdy about it, to be honest. I've always researched it and just loved all the different breeds and what they have to offer. And when I started, when I wanted to go into farming, I always knew that I wanted to sort of sell directly to the public, meat and the produce that they obviously produce. And for me, it was 2 reasons really. It was one, is it was a selling point, as in the natives, they look different. There's something different about them. So pigs, for example, is what I started with, which we've obviously then gone into cattle and sheep since. But so you can show people a picture and they think, oh, what's that? That looks different to what we're used to. It's not like a pink sheep, a pink pig, or a white sheep type thing. So and then it was just the theory of actually supporting something, giving it a purpose. Obviously, the commercials are fine; they'll take care of themselves. They always sort of have done. They always will do. But like we say, the natives, they are dying out because there isn't that commercial market for them anymore. So it's just selling direct was always something I wanted to do, and they were a really good selling point. And obviously, like I said, sort of supporting a breed at the same time, giving them a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think definitely with all the variety of native breeds that we have, there are definitely ones more suited for commercial viability than others. I mean, Jenny and Adam, you talked about you'll cross some of your stock. So what's your experience with your native breeds? Why have you chosen to get them and crossing them? Is it for that purely commercial viability and then going on for the wider market?
The kind of went for the Herefords originally just for the temperament as much as anything. They're such big docile animals that before we took the tenancy, we just had 2 or 3 little fields here and there, and there wasn't much of a handling system. So I wanted something that was quiet and easy to work with. And the Herefords were perfect for that because they just are so docile. And they do have they're probably on the native side, they're not far away from your Angus. They do still have a little bit of a commercial value to them. So they're not, it's not miles away on that front. And the Highlands, I mean, that was kind of more just a sentimental thing in a way. When I was growing up, Dad was farm manager of an estate in North Northumberland where we ran about 200 head of cattle right the way around. There was 40 odd cows, and they were kept round till 3-year-old before they went down into the butchers' markets and different restaurants in Newcastle. So we got a few Highlands because the hardiness as well. They're outwintered, and so for some of the rougher ground on the farm, they were ideal for some of them bits as well. And like I said earlier, it was the cross is just. It was easier putting the Hereford bull on than having another bull kicking around, to be totally honest.
It
was
absolutely.
Just simple as that. And they just get sold in the store as well, and they're just slower maturing. Your native breeds tend to be slower maturing, but you get a better quality product from it because they naturally come themselves when they're ready.
And Sam's right, they're very photogenic. I just have thousands of photos of the on my phone.
That's when you know that you've made peak farming, when your whole camera roll is just cows and sheep and pigs. No, but you're right though, with the handling facilities, I mean, like we're saying before about money, these facilities are expensive. And if you have breeds that can outwinter, you don't have to have the cost of the in-wintering shed, you don't have the cost of extra feed, you don't have the cost of straw, they can be outside. I mean, our handling facilities that we coped with for 30 years was me and my dad lugging cattle gates around the whole 100 acres of the farm. You know, I mean, great for the muscles. You don't have to go to the gym, but I am secretly glad I don't have to do that anymore.
I mean, we put the Highlands just through the normal cattle stocks, and they know exactly how to get their horns through without any issues whatsoever.
Yeah.
They just move their head and they're through, and they're in exactly the same as the rest.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable. They know exactly where them points are. It's
Exactly.
actually worrying
It's like
how
they
well
know
they know where the points are.
Yeah, they know the width. It's like, you know, getting spatial awareness when you're driving like your trailer or your tractor or your truck or whatever. They know how, like, they're dynamic, you know. They're amazing. And actually, how about you then, with your experience with stock and with your native breeds or the non-natives? Like, how have you gone into the native breed picture with all of this?
So we started in natives because well, one of them I didn't have much choice. So when I took on the farm, I had to buy the cattle that were I'd reared them as my farm manager anyway, so I hadn't chosen them, and they were pedigree Dexters. And we'd bought them because they were small, they were handleable. The farm where I am, we deal with a lot of children, adults with special needs, so we needed quiet cattle, small, easily handleable cattle, dehorned, which is quite funny because now I have 60 Highlanders that have got 5 foot wide horns, so it's completely flipped on its head. And I just when we started, I've always liked an underdog, so it was like a bit like Billy was saying and everything. It was like we could actually keep cattle or livestock and do something else as in do something for the breed as well. So we're not just chucking out a commercial cross because it goes through the farm shop. We're producing an animal that it's got another purpose. And it was and then with our sheep, we kissed a few frogs with the sheep. I've been through I used to use a native the RBST list as a shopping list. You know, just tick off everything I got, because we have because it's a bit of an open farm as well. I wanted to do like a breeds gallery, and when I first started out, I was like, I want one of every breed that people can come and see. And then I realized when you're trying to get the best of one of every breed, it doesn't quite work. So then we started focusing, and we kissed a few frogs with the sheep, and then the sheep became more commercial. So that's when I focused on the black faces and the Cheviots, and then the cattle, the Dexters. They're great. I like my Dexters, really quiet, calm. And then the Highlands were they're more of a romantic thing yet again. When you come home from work and tell your wife that you quit your job that day, you know, what's the best way to soften that blow? Then go, but I bought you a Highland cow. You know? and that's how it started, and here we are, 60 head of the blighters that keep us busy now. And it's the same, and we're quite lucky. We have a farm shop on site and a restaurant, so I don't have to, you know, I get the premium because they're native, and you know, they always say you can measure our food miles in meters because the farm field's there and the farm shop's there. But we are currently looking at, so I've just bought a whitbred shorthorn.
Lovely.
I'm trying to think about the future if we're not here forever. I'd like to have a commercial outlet for them as well. So I was thinking of producing crossbred female Highlands to sell to other farmers to give that popular. Obviously, the blue grey and the Highland cross are quite popular users at the moment. So we're it was basically easy answer is rare breeds were an underdog, and I thought, well, let's support the underdog a little bit. And then, as you say, you put a Highland in the field, and next thing, every man, his dog, and his grandmother stops to take a photo. And then that led into our agritourism business, which is, I can't get rid of the Highlands now, even if I wanted to.
Well, see, there you go. It's a match made in heaven. I mean, the Highlands, you know, they're so symbolic, obviously not just for Scotland, but around the UK and the world. Everyone wants to see Highlands. I mean, where I am, I'm quite close to Royal Deeside, so cattle are like they're everywhere, and it's great, you know, for people seeing it. And every time I have chats with, you know, every man and his dog about Highland cattle, I love surprising people when I say, but they don't just come in the ginger, you know, you get them in the white, you get them in the brown. They originally came in black, and I go into the wee story about Queen Victoria, and I love the surprise on people's faces when they just learn more about them. You know, they really are a fantastic breed. And there's a new market for their hair, by the way, if anyone wants to know that. A lot of people are using their hair to mold into resin jewellery now.
All right.
So diversification stream for you. If you want to charge people to brush the Highlanders and then you can sell their hair to jewellery makers. It might not make you millions, but it might make you something. So in terms then in general, I really want to know how you all feel about native breeds fitting into the future of, UK agriculture, because a lot of schemes around the UK and around in the devolved nations, they're really focusing now on environmental schemes that are more sympathetic to the environment, less intensive. So let's start with, we're going to do eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Billy, what do you feel about the future of native breeds within agriculture? There's no right or wrong answer. I'm not trying to trick you.
No, that's all right. No, in all honesty, sort of going back to what the others were saying, I think they are the future, in the sense that obviously British agriculture's taken a few blows in the last few years. And I think that we need to look at a more non-intensive look. So whether you keep the breeds purebred or whether you use them for crossing. So for example, last year I did a little trial with my Herdwick ewes, and we popped a Suffolk Ram on them, and it worked really well. We had a ewe that could, she didn't need any input at all. She outwintered all year. She lambed on her own, no problem at all. And then we had a lamb that was producing not too far off the same weight as what you would get in a commercial market. And I think that but we could do that for sort of pretty much half the cost. If you've got like mule sheep, obviously nothing against them, but they take a lot of looking after. You need a lot of extra grains and things like that to keep them in the condition that they need to be in to survive. Whereas the natives do just survive. Like I've sort of been saying to a lot of people, is that the actual with farming is the animals haven't changed. It's just our approach that's changed them. So the land's still the same as it always has been. The animals are pretty much the same as they always have been, and we need to use them because they are suited to the area they come from, and that's why they're there in the first place. So I think they are the future. As it becomes more of a struggle, I think we need to look at less intensive approaches and look at what they actually have to offer. And they don't need to just be purebred. They can go into crossbred systems like the Highland Herefords, for example. It's a very valid point. You can change the livestock to fit the landscape, but you can't change the landscape to fit the livestock. And that's exactly
the thing, and that's what the native breeds are. They are conditioned environmentally, historically, to be in certain environments and landscapes where they will thrive and survive with the right management, like you say. Every breed is different, obviously, but no, that's a really, really good point. And Jenny and Adam, then, what do you guys think? What do you think the future of native breeds looks like within UK agriculture?
I would say up with us, Northumberland into Scotland, I think they're actually growing in popularity quite massively. I'm actually a livestock auctioneer is my job full time, and the amount of customers that seem to be changing and going down the native route, from your continentals that take a lot more inputs, they've changed to the more native breeds that naturally convert better. They're going down these sort of routes, and the number of shorthorn Herefords, different breeds that we've been selling bulls wise seems to be growing massively. And the other side, your natives are far more, I would say, probably slightly superior in producing your female lines for keeping as replacements. And that seems to be a massive point of it as well, that people are trying to become more self-sufficient in maintaining and retaining their own breeding stock, which your natives do. And it's all, again, as I said, the temperament. A lot of the population in agriculture is aging still, so the temperament in these native breeds seems to be far more popular, than what your continentals are. So I definitely think up here they're growing in popularity massively. And like I said, it seems to be, not these people that used to always carry 40 big black cows and 40 Charolais calves. They seem to be disappearing slowly, and you see a lot more Angus calves, Hereford calves, shorthorn calves, and different crosses being brought in so they can retain their females. But like I said, really, really less input into these types of breeds that yield a lot better.
And it's really interesting your point of view, especially being an auctioneer, that you're seeing like those changes as well.
Yeah.
I think that's a fascinating job. I wanted to be an auctioneer, but I realised I can't count very well. So
It
I
has
also
its
wanted
ups
to
and
be a
downs, I
I wanted
must
to be a
admit.
mermaid when I was about
Sometimes
5,
it's
but I'm
good
not
to
great at
raise its
swimming.
hand.
And Ashley, what about you? What do you think is the place for native breeds within agriculture going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think our native breeds used to be the backbone of agriculture, and they will be again. Personally, I echo everything that the other guys have said, and the versatility of them. If you just take the Highland for example, you can chuck it out the hill, it'll survive, it'll throw you a calf out, it'll rear that calf up to the best of its ability, and then you can bring it down into the in-by, you can feed it up, and it'll put condition on. So you can really get both ends of the spectrum. You can have this animal that will go out and mother its calf and do a good job of it, and then you can bring its calf down. If you decide you want to put grain into it or any added, you can put them into it, but also they will make a good animal if you don't. They'll make it's just the versatility of it, and then the temperament, the cattle, that as was said by Adam there. I've always been a big believer, if you're going to work with a cow, you might as well work one that won't kill you, if you've got the choice.
I mean, preferably, yeah. That's...
Yeah. if you've got the choice, try and aim for the ones that won't murder you, because it makes everyone's life a bit more interesting and calmer.
It does make you fitter though, when you've got to run a bit faster.
Oh yes, for a rather large lad, I have had to clear the gate in my time when the cows come back at me. But yeah, and I just see, I'm involved with Highlands, and I travel up and down. I'm up in Scotland all the time and dealing with various things with the Highland Cattle Society, and these native breeds, as Adam rightly said, they're just becoming more and more popular. And I think it's because people are realizing it's a bit like the regenerative farming and stuff like that. People are realizing that although it's a big new word, we're just farming like we used to before. We've just found a new name for it. We're not. We've reinvented the wheel, and now we think it's cool. It's exactly like music in the 80s and 90s. We think we reinvented it. But so yeah, I think there's a massive place for them in agriculture, up and down. And like you said, with the subsidies that are coming in and the government support for native breeds, and at the end of the day, all of us in here, we're farmers. If I can get a similar yield out of something that eats half as much, then well, why wouldn't I?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why would I spend more if I don't have to?
Yeah. And you can buy more Highland cows to make up for other things you've done.
That's it. It's that or flowers from the garage on the way past. But cows are much more fun.
And Sam, how about yourself? I know we've had a big, broad range of opinions here, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'd actually echo those. I think we are seeing kind of people's awareness of the price of food is unsustainably cheap. And I think that people's connection to nature and the environment in general is poor. And so I think the native breeds sit in that space of connecting people to the environment a bit more and kind of wanting people to spend time in the environment. But also people will hopefully move in shifting their kind of purchasing behavior to, I will spend more on knowing that cow had a good life or that pig had a good life, and knowing that I'm investing in the stuff that Ash and Billy was saying about kind of protecting that breed. And I think that will hopefully lead to kind of a bit of an area where maybe we're eating less meat, that we're eating better meat and more premium products going forward. And that whole kind of cycle comes back to, as we're saying, going back to the kind of older ways of doing things, and really kind of resisting not knowing where your meat comes from, or not buying into the fake farm narrative to come out of some of the bigger supermarkets where they're saying it's all sustainable. And I think the schemes really play into that. So there's a storytelling responsibility that I think farmers have to kind of educate the public, but also you can see that it's working in some degree from the schemes.
Yeah,
you get extra funding for the rare breed, the native breed, but that should continue, and that will really help drive this going forward and help people make the right choices. Yeah,
absolutely. And I guess that then leads me into my last question, which I know you're all going to be so disappointed at because we're having such a lovely talk. I really want to know, as new entrants and native breed enthusiasts, I really want to know what your favourite memory is that you have with coming into agriculture or coming back into agriculture in the case of, Jenny and Adam, and just, is there anything that really sticks in your mind about really why you love this lifestyle? So Sam, I'm going to ask you to start. And no tears, please. We're not going to have any tissues. It's okay to cry, but no tears.
Yeah. Well, I think it's all new for me, but it's been like a childhood dream. And so getting to share that with my family and friends when they come and visit. And people, the most common thing is the noises that the turkeys make. And it's incredible just hearing them gobbling outside and just having no idea how prehistoric they look. And so just seeing people's faces going, why is that turkey like blue and red and ugly and makes all these kind of noises? And I think that's great. It's making people think, oh, well, that's what a turkey is. And it's not just that thing that you see once a year at Christmas. It's the kind of the animals and the life behind it. So sharing that with family and friends has been a real joy over the last few years.
Amazing. And Ashley, how about yourself?
Well, my best one is quite a recent one. And we were at Halifax show, so we show our cattle as well.
Yeah.
And a 3-year-old heifer of ours made breed champion, which was fine. And then we got dragged out into the interbreed, beef interbreed championship. And it had been a really tough week on the farm. We've all had them. Everything was going wrong. We was panicked, head in hands, whatever. And we went to the show anyway. And I got tapped out in the top 3. And I thought, oh, they've put a Highland in for the sake of it, just to make it look like they're being fair. And walking around the ring, not looking at the judge. My tie's all skew whiff. I'm not even trying. Anyway, the judge taps me out as interbreed champion with this Highland cow. And I looked across to the tent because I didn't realise I'd been tapped out. I said an expletive. I went, oh, dung. Yeah, that's me. And I looked over to the shed, and my little 9-year-old boy was absolutely in tears of happiness because he chose the cow when she was a yearling. My wife was in tears because she's like, oh my God, we've just won interbreed champion. And then a few people from the Highland Cattle Society and our local Highland Cattle Club were all there cheering and clapping me on. And I was just like, this is why, it was a community-based thing. I felt like I was part of something. There was some recognition for the work that we put in. But yeah, so I wasn't going to get for the whole thing without saying we got interbreed champion this year, basically, But yeah, so that was it for me, and then walking back into the shed and farmers I've never met in my life tapping me on the back and coming over and talking about my, my native breed Highland cow, known for not, they're often seen as a hobby breed, and then, and just for the other commercial breeders in here, the judge was actually a Limousin judge, so it wasn't a Highland judge. It wasn't nepotism. But yeah, it was just great. And we came back from that show, and it was like we were reinvigorated, and it was like, that was great. We had a real good time. We've met loads of people. Facebook blew up. People had us on Facebook. People follow us on Instagram, and it was just, yes, that's my favourite one. Memory of recent, and it's not even that long ago. It was back in the summer.
Congratulations! No, that
Thank you very much.
It really is amazing. And Billy, how about yourself?
Mine is a pretty recent one as well. As I say, sort of native breeds have just always been a passion of mine since a child. So it's always been a dream just to, have my own farm to be able to do that. It's an amazing opportunity. But I've always said that when I retire, I would breed pedigree white parks cattle. And we had an opportunity to actually get 2 heifers and a bull 4 weeks ago. And that was probably like my lifelong ambition. So that was all I've ever wanted to do. So and it literally, it was the top of my bucket list. So so that's definitely my best memory so far. And then we got a calf due in July, so that'll be my best memory then, I expect.
If she calves on my birthday, if the calf's a girl, can you call her Alice?
I will. Absolutely.
I'll hold you to that.
What date's your birthday?
July the 3rd.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll see what happens.
All right. It'll be the RBST cat. Yes.
There you go.
And then Jenny and Adam, how about yourselves?
we've probably got different. Mine's more of a broad. It's not a specific memory. It's more of a broader thing. I work in education, so I work
Okay.
for the local authority. So I know the importance of being outdoors and learning about where your food comes from. So I think for me, it's that with being able to have a family and bring them up with on a farm and how interested they are. And eventually, what I would like to do is school visits.
Yeah.
And bring children up, because I work all over Northumberland and I see children in really deprived areas that have absolutely no idea where the food comes from. They don't know where it's grown. So it's more of a broader memory experience for me rather than anything in particular.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, education is so important as well, like you say.
You got that?
Well,
I'm looking at you.
Mine's probably just quite simple, because it was like last year, the first time we'd finished like fully carving here, and just when we put the cows away to grass, there was the 20 Herefords went away down with calves and just all uniformed going down into the grass, and it was like my first proper carving. So it was just, you know, that kind of sort of nostalgia of it, like how just being pleased with the uniform packet that we had, and you know, way down. And it was just them running down to the fields, you know, that first morning out in grass, cows and calves. There's nothing better than it, really, for them showing you how much they enjoy it. So probably just that, quite simple. I was going to beat Ash anyway.
Yeah, you get the top story. Yeah, you get the top story.
Oh, sorry. Wasn't intentional.
No, it's amazing. Well, look, thank you all so much for participating again. I really, really appreciate it. Like I say, podcast is something new that we're doing, and it also helps me and everyone else reach out to, you know, not only yourselves, but just everyone in the agricultural community. And it's really nice, like, meeting everyone, and, you know, hopefully we'll get to meet in person. That'll be lovely. You're all welcome to see me if you're ever up in Aberdeenshire. It's a bit, you know, it's a bit far, but I'm up there, so bring your jacket. But no, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And the podcast will be out in not too long, so do give it a share. And if you want to watch yourselves back, you're more than welcome to. Fantastic.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for
You
having
are
us. Thank you
more
very
than
much.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Cheers,
much,
guys.
guys. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye now.
Cheers.
Bye.